W.E.B. Dubois.
As an activist, sociologist, educator, and a man of many other deserved titles, Du Bois is recognized as the foremost African-American intellectual leader of his time. Within his writings and teachings,
He paved the way to a brighter future for African Americans and society as a whole.
this video takes a look at two concepts that Du Bois studied and contributed to throughout his educational and professional life: historiography
And the double consciousness.
The Oxford English Dictionary defines historiography as the writing of history or the study of history writing. Du Bois wrote a lot about African history and the African diaspora throughout his life. For instance, his Harvard doctoral dissertation was titled The Suppression of the African Slave Trade to the United States of America, 1638 to 1870. This was Du Bois's first book, 350 pages of efforts made in the United States from early colonial times to his present to limit and suppress the trade of Africans to American shores.
In chapter 12 of this book, Du Bois wrote that the United States needed to carefully study such chapters of her history as that of the suppression of the slave trade. He proclaimed that it would provide more interest in both scientific truth and future social reform. This book was published as #1 in the Harvard Historical Series and received many favorable comments.
And he didn't stop there. He would go on to write many books that contributed to American historiography that we can access and study today, like this book here, Du Bois's The Soul of Black Folks. This text documented the current lives of African Americans and what it meant to be black in the 20th century. Speaking of being black in the 20th century, Du Bois recognized that the racial prejudices of the period seemingly separated African Americans into two forms of a person. In Du Bois's Strivings of the Negro People, he writes that one feels his two-ness as such: an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two warring ideals in one dark body. This was the idea of the double consciousness, to be as two in one.
Though this was kind of a traumatic realization, Du Bois also wrote that African Americans should embrace their identity as a Negro while maintaining their Americanness. And this realization remains just as important today.
Since Du Bois's time, America has developed and become more inclusive of African Americans and other minorities in many functions and factors of society. But there's always more work to be done. Historiography and the double consciousness were only two of the many concepts that Du Bois studied throughout his life.
Now it's up to us to take his studies, examine them, and create a similar or more effective impact on the current American status. But for now, we can look back and admire those contributions that Du Bois made towards scientific truth and social reform that he helped shape from 1896 to the present.